Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'm going to be speaking about appropriate role models. I'm going to be speaking about equal opportunities. This is a legislation that is in place in all sports. This means that no one can be discriminated and cannot be chose by their race, by their disability. No one can be discriminated from the sport. All athletes are treated fairly, so they should do the same for others. So an athlete should treat another teammate as the same as what they should treat everyone else. All athletes are treated. Female officials are becoming more in our games recently, and we need to accept this as well. So females being discriminated out of the game and not being allowed to officiate is against legislation, really. So we must accept this and respect this. Recently, the FA had some trouble with a female official. She was given some abuse at a game, and she was put on another game, but then she was taken off of it because of this abuse, because they didn't think she could deal with it, whereas she felt she could. This then went, and she complained, and she was then put on a lot of games. Now she officiates within the Premier League. Next, I'm going to speak about respect for peers and others. Athletes must show respect for their peers and others. This includes demonstrating good sportsmanship before, during, and after training and competitions. It is important that athletes show respect towards the officials, as this is they make the decisions, and the decisions will not change by you complaining at them. Crowds and spectators are involved with the others, and this can be challenging for them, as it's hard to respect them at times when they're booing you and when they're going against you. Aston Villa recently, they've had a lot of trouble with their own fans, but then they overcame this. They deal with it well. They had still have respect for their fans because their fans still went to watch them, and they outplayed it and they survived in the Premier League. A great example of athletes not being able to show respect is Eric Cantona. Someone said something about his family within the crowd, and basically Eric Cantona lost it, and his anger got the wrong side of him, and he hit a fan, or dropped the fan. Next, I'm going to be speaking about appropriate role models. Successful sports performers find themselves as role models. They have to consider who they are a role model for. So, David Beckham, he has to act well because children are watching him, and whatever he does, they want to do. A good example of appropriate role models is the Sports Ambassador course, which is a young ambassador scheme set up in 2006 following up from the 2012 Olympic successful bid. It is for 14 to 19 people that can work with aged 5 to 19 people due to their sporting talent. They can then help them and lead them on. Also, they get involved with the Olympics a lot, and they get a good chance in the sport. Next, I'm going to speak about enhancing the status of sport. Good conduct in sport raises the status of sport, and this sport then has a good name in the spectator's eye. Generally, sport enjoys the status that it has, but the status can never get better. It can always get better. It is a responsibility of people who take part in it to make it give it a better name. A bad example of enhancing the sport was quite recently with John Terry. John Terry cheated on his wife with Wayne Bridges' wife. These were teammates at the time, and this isn't a very good name for the game. But however, there are good examples such as Craig Bellamy, who's always been known as a bit of a bad boy. He's got his own charity within football, and this is good enhancement of the sport. Next, I'm going to speak about increasing participation for all. One of the main aims of every sport is to increase the participation of their sport. The performers help this increase in participation by setting a good example on and off the pitch. So David Beckham is another great example of this. On the pitch, he's awesome, although he did get a red card the other day, but other than that, he is awesome and he shows a good example. Off the pitch, he's a family man, he's got his own academy, does charity work, he's on adverts, never does anything wrong, never goes against anything. Another good example is David Beckham still. He sets a good example, but to cater for this, he set up his own academy. So the increase in participation, they had good facilities, they had good coaching. Next, I'm going to go to P3, strategies that can be used. During training, the media are often invited along to training sessions, and there are sometimes open public sessions where the public can watch. This then means that they have to act appropriately and act as if their peers, as if their fans and the others will want to see them. They should put in the good work, the hard work, and listen to all the coaches, because there could be children watching them, and if they don't listen to coaches, they might want to listen to their coaches at their lower level, and so on. Also, they might get interviewed after the training, so they have to be prepared for the interviews, like setting themselves what questions they're going to be asked, how they're going to answer them, and so on. Next is television. This could be in the form of games, matches, and performances. This could be include interviews after the games and matches. Lots more people can watch the telly, so it's a wider audience, so more people are seeing what you're doing. Everything you do, people can see. Such as Suarez, live at the game, you couldn't really see it much, but at home watching it on television, you could see that he clearly bit Ivanovic. Basically everything the athlete does is seen on television, so you have to set in a good example. Recently in the Premier League, there's been really bad examples of this, so television, you have to act appropriately because everyone can see everything. Next is dealing with the public. Players need to be able to deal with the disruptive fans. Being booed, chants against them, they have to be able to deal with this. If they can't deal with this, then there's really no point in participating in the sport. Dealing with the public also involves signing of shirts, having photos with them. You have to have the patience with the fans. If you play for someone like Man United and you're walking into the ground, the amount of fans that are going to be waiting there wanting photos and signatures is going to be significant, and you need to prepare yourself for this. Next is match officials. Every sport has some sort of match official involved, and we have to respect the decisions that they give. Different sports have different rules for their officials. Everyone can speak to their official in sport as long as it's in an appropriate manner. If it's not, then they're going to get cautioned. However, in rugby, only the captains can speak to the officials. The captain is should set a good example towards the players, the peers, and the captain is made by experience, by how level-headed they are, how calm they are, and things like that. And that's everything. Thank you.